I'm very excited to introduce I never even talked about our show, homegrownradionj.org, Chew the Scene with Lauren and Danny. Welcome, Ed. How are you?
I can see you guys. I didn't know I was going to have. You're on my giant screen computer right now.
Oh my god!
Oh my gosh! How do we look at? Are we okay?
Are we okay? No. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that we arranged this today. I know I've been kind of like poking at you for a few years, but I have to say, Ed's newsfeed is like one of my favorite. And you're always the first one to show up, I guess, because I like all your stuff. But you are
Facebook at its best.
You are an amazing artist, creator, actor, writer. You're always. I love people like you that make a decision and they sit down and do it. And someone just said, what? And Dixon
worked with Perry Kruger.
You're not just supposed to get ideas and then put them in a drawer, you know.
I know, but you know what? A lot of us, I feel like, excuse the phrase, cock block ourselves for some reason. Like we make excuses. You know, I'm like, no, we do. It's like we're afraid of, and I say we, the collective we. So I love that you're like, I'm going to write the show and it's going to happen and I'm doing it at Green Room 42. I mean, that's amazing. So let's start at the beginning. When did you get into showbiz?
Well, you know, my father was a revival minister in Oklahoma in the 50s, so I was born into show business. I mean, we put a tent into a bus and took Jesus all the way to Canada when I was like 6.
Oh my God, you're like Steve Martin in Leap of Faith.
Just like that, yeah.
Oh my God. So okay, because you wrote a book, so this might all be in your book, which I am going to read. So talk about that.
You know, I skipped most of the revival minister days. I didn't feel like I thought the sooner I get around to the show business, the better it'll be.
I think that could be a play, though, Ed. That would make a great play. Just seeing that.
What, seriously?
I've got a bunch of short stories, but they're so depressing. Oklahoma in the 50s. I mean, can you even imagine?
I can't even imagine. I mean, I'm not even being rude. I can't even imagine it.
It was unimaginable. Yeah. It's like something you'd see in a horror movie. That was my life.
Oh my God.
And you know what? They haven't budged 1 inch.
Well, that's what, you know what? It's so funny because I think when we don't talk about politics, but when we talk about elections, I think when you've lived in a landlocked, and I'm not putting down landlocked states, but we're so spoiled, right? We're on a coast.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
We're so spoiled over here. We don't realize what it's like to live in middle America, but that's so interesting that you are like the son of a minister, basically.
Yes.
And look at how and just like them all, you ran right away from it, right?
I ran away as soon as I was 18 and I had $100 and I came to New York, and I've actually never been back. I keep thinking eventually, surely somebody's going to ask me to do some extremely upsetting show in Oklahoma, but they just don't. I mean, I thought about taking Georgie there, but oh my God, I can't picture it.
Maybe you need to. Maybe they need a little bit of Georgie and
maybe.
So, all right. So you moved to. So you were 18. You moved to New York City.
Yeah, I did. I had $100.
Wow.
Recently, I went to the building that I moved into. I had a 3-room apartment that was $68 a month.
Whoa.
And I had a roommate. So I had to come up with $34.
Oh, my gosh.
And I recently went and I stood in front of that building. It looks like a prison from a Dickens novel. And I stood down there and I looked up and I thought, I moved into a 5th floor walk-up and I said, I am going to be in show business.
Oh, see?
And by God, that is what I have done.
And, you know, and that's what I'm saying. You manifest, you put it out into the universe, and you're doing it. So what was the struggle like? I mean, because we were just talking how the face of Broadway and showbiz is changing, and I think as it has to. I mean, you have to evolve. But when you started, what was it like to audition, go out? Because now we got self-tapes, sending in this, sending in that. I mean, that wasn't like
Oh
that
my
back
God!
then,
You know, one of my first Broadway show was No No Nanette in 1970
I love that show.
with Ruby Keeler and Busby Berkeley,
Wow.
and Helen Gallagher was in it. Helen Gallagher is still around. She is still teaching. She's in her 90s. But she said to me, Ed, when I was a kid, so this would have been like 1948, the year I was born, she said, back then, all you had to do is have one song and one time step, and you'd never stop working. Well,
She was
by
right.
1970, you know it was not like that. And now you have to twirl fire batons and compose and sing opera and, you know,
Hang
be a ballet
from the
dancer.
ceiling,
Be a
like
ballet-
Julie Taymor, hang upside down. I know, you're right.
Plus, market yourself.
yeah.
And it used to be so wonderful to be in Midtown. Like I was in just heaven. All I had to do is walk by the theaters and I was in heaven. Or I'd go into Colony Records and just read the record jackets and I'd be in. Now, you can't stand on that corner.
No.
It's a disaster.
No.
No, and even like I have to tell you, Times Square. I mean, I don't
my
know what's
gosh.
worse, the prostitutes or the people dressed up in these costumes.
Oh, no, it's the costumes. The prostitutes
costumes.
were great.
I know. Bring back the peep
They didn't
show.
jump on you. They were polite.
Oh my God.
It's so true. It's like, you know what? I'll take 8th Avenue and just go up because
That's
I
what
can't
do.
deal.
I can't deal with the characters anymore. So you've seen this whole evolution. Which
Yes,
is kind
I
of
have. And
interesting.
now, if I have to go to Times Square, it's an awful thing. It's not a celebration. It's
Yeah.
a terrible thing. It makes me very sad.
I know, it's really big. I think actually it's so funny. I saw Patti LuPone, and she was like, and now there's, I can't remember how she worded it, but basically was like, now in Times Square there's, you know, this and that and all, and these children are walking through. I mean, who wants children in Times Square?
Yeah.
I know, it's become like,
Well, remember when you could drive through Times
Oh,
Square?
I know.
mean, come
Forget
on.
Oh my
that.
God, yeah.
I know, it's so true.
And it used to be you could go to the theater and people would pay attention to the stage, you know, and they weren't eating and texting.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's funny that you say that because, I went to see some show and they were like selling snacks down the aisle. I was
Oh,
like,
absolutely. There was one night during Georgie, these three girls were texting so furiously that the light was distracting me. So I stopped the show. And it was a small theater. And I said, look, girls, I'm sorry, but you're really distracting me. You have to stop that. And they looked really shocked and they turned their phones off. 5 minutes later, all three of them back on their phones.
oh my God.
And I thought, well, I can't stop the show again. I'm just going to have to live with it.
But there's the etiquette. I've done that actually. When I was years ago, I would direct. Oh my gosh, like my kids were so little. This is like 15 years ago. I would work at a high school. I direct the shows, and when these high schoolers would come in and be on their phones, I would kick them out. I was like, no way, no way. I'm like, these people are working their asses off up there. What are
It
you
was weird
doing?
in Georgie because I'm talking directly to the audience. It was
Right.
direct to dress, so I'm looking right into their faces.
And you know
if you're eating a cookie, it's really awful.
And Ed, I mean, it's like the actors can see you. I mean, they're not. I mean, they're working, but it's like a movie. Like, hello, and why are you spending money?
But
to
you
be
know
on
what? I
your
think they
phone?
forget that. They're just so used to those
The kids
screens
are,
and
I know.
the movies, you know, the movie theaters, that they forget that there's live people up there.
So, talk about Georgie. Can you tell everyone what the show's about?
Well, you know, when I was a kid, one of my very first jobs was a Lehman Engel tour of the Student Prince. And I loved singing back then. So it was a big shock to me that the best thing in the show was this comedian called George Rose, a comic actor. And what he was doing was so astounding to me. I've never seen anything like it. He's a guy from the Royal Shakespeare who just knew everything about comedy and everything about stagecraft. And I found myself standing in the wings as a kid, just staring at this character guy. And I didn't know I was going to become a character guy. All I knew was it was fascinating and unbelievable. And then I started hanging out with him, and then we became friends. And then eventually he wanted to work on his voice, and he came to study voice with me. And this guy was like my idol. And he was my idol for like 20 years, and I got all these amazing stories from him. He starred in like 30 Broadway shows and had a whole slew of Tony Awards. And he invited me down to the Dominican Republic, and I met the people who killed him. So I sat on this information for a very long time, and I had all this inside information about his death. And after 30 years of thinking about it, I decided to tell the story because it's such an unbelievable journey from starstruck kid to meeting the people who killed someone. And that's what Georgie was. It was this amazing saga of knowing a world-famous actor and his demise.
And
Wow.
you know, and what a way to honor him too.
Yeah, it was, and to have, I mean, just, there aren't very many times in your life you're going to come across a story that's as large as that. And I had a real sense of responsibility, and I was so happy that it was recognized to be something worthwhile.
Would you ever bring that back, you think?
I would, although I got to say, doing it is killing. There are some roles, you know, like Blanche Dubois. It's not once you've gone down a road that's dark, you may not want to go down it again. I mean, I was hell bent on getting the show done, but doing that every day is not good for your psyche.
Right.
An hour of it was just completely joyous, describing this unbelievably brilliant comic actor, but the last half hour was excruciating, and it's very difficult to go through that on a daily basis, especially since it's so personal.
I love that you brought that up about how it affects your psyche playing certain characters, because I don't.
Oh my God! You know, I've done Turpin a lot in Sweeney Todd, and I love playing bad guys. But let me tell you, if you play Judge Turpin and you put the whipping song in, you will go to sleep with it at night, and you will wake up with it the next morning. You don't shake that stuff off.
I get cast as a heavier character. I tend to be a heavier or a darker character, or a character with some issue. That's just what I kind of get, pinned as, and which is fine because that means I'm working, and I don't mind, and I do enjoy dabbling. But if you dabble too deep and you can't get yourself out, I mean, don't they say Vivian Leigh never fully recovered from?
Yes, from Streetcar.
Right.
From Streetcar.
I saw Sandy Dennis do it in Chicago, and when they took her out at the end, it was so overwhelming emotionally that I got physically ill, and I went home and threw up. And then I thought, my God, that was a matinee.
Yeah.
She's doing it again right now.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Being there, and that's, you know what I always tell my students, you need to be present in the moment, and, you know, it's being honest to your character and, you know, being vulnerable. And, like, once you get to that vulnerable place, there's like that fine line. They say Heath Ledger too had a really hard time coming out after the Joker.
Yeah, well, he didn't.
He didn't.
Right.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, it really just shows, you know, just the amount of stress it puts on you mentally. I mean, folks, you know, don't know what that does to you as a performer.
Your mind doesn't know you're just kidding.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
No, you're right.
Right.
Because you're so invested. But you definitely, you play a lot of interesting characters. I feel like you go back and forth.
I have an interesting bandwidth available to me in that I can be ridiculously silly, but I can also be really scary. Right. And I feel now I can't play leading men, but the particular bandwidth that I'm on, it has a very wide girth to it. I'm very grateful for that.
I mean, it's kept you going all these years, and now you have a new... First of all, you wrote a book. I am going to get that book. I've been wanting to get... And I so regret that I never got it when everyone was posting the pictures when you first published it. Can you talk...
Well, it's not too late.
I know. I'm gonna come to New York and be like, sign my book, Ed. No.
You know, I met Linda Lavin. I hadn't seen her in 30 years.
Yeah.
We were at the drama desk together 30 years before, and she gave the best speech. So when I finally met her, I said, oh my God, we were at the drama desk together 30 years ago, and you gave the best speech. And she says, well, better late than never.
You know what? That is I love that, and that comes from Linda Lavin. Wiser words have never been said, just even for life. Just because we're older doesn't mean that your life is over. I think we put pressure, or in this country especially, with young people, we want youth, we want this, we want that. And we tend to push aside the people that are wiser and they've lived life. And sometimes you peak at like 50 years old. And there's nothing wrong with that.
It certainly is true for me. I have 2 premieres happening within a month in New York City.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that, yeah.
Come on.
And honestly, you are truly like a phenom to me. I'm like fangirling hard about this, but you are just on fire. So talk about what you have going on in New York soon.
Well, my licensing company called me, 10, 15 years ago and said, we think if you could write a small whodunit musical, we think a lot of theaters would do it. So I did. I wrote this musical called Whodunit the Musical, and a bunch of people did it across the country, but I always wanted, I wrote the leading part for myself, and I always wanted to get it done in a really good theater with some really great people. But it was being done across the country, and I had other things on my plate, and it just never was on the front burner. And finally, I just said, look here, I'm going to put it up in concert. I'm going to get some really great people like Liz Larson and Karen Murphy and Benjamin Eakley and Charlotte Maltby and Nick Cohn. And we're just with a fantastic musical director like Steve Marzullo, and we're going to do a concert version of it and do it in New York. And then we invited a whole slew of producers, and they all said yes. And it's happening 2 weeks from today.
The 20th, right? At Green Room?
No, it's at Green Room 42, which is such a wonderful space. And while this was Rosh Hashanah weekend, we're having this conversation on a Sunday, the guy who books the joint, Daniel Dunlow, and he said, well, why don't we launch your one-man show, because you've written one, right? I said, yes. So I have this show called Show Stories that's 50 years of the very best stories that I've seen one-on-one with Busby Berkeley, Ruby Keeler, Anne Margaret, Kevin Spacey, Stephen Sondheim, Leonard Bernstein, etc. It's like name-dropping brought to some kind of high art.
It's like extra, name-dropping extra.
And there's no murder. So it's an evening of theatrical bonbons.
I love that. I love that.
And I'm intending to do this one until I drop dead. So I think this is the one.
Will you have to like keep on adding to it though, as like your career? You're gonna have to like keep on adding as your career progresses, because you're still climbing.
Well, what I'm
there.
doing is like reaching back into the past, because I did a whole bunch of shows with Bernstein. And who are you going to meet that did a bunch of shows with Leonard Bernstein?
I just met you. You're the only one.
When are you going to talk to somebody who knew Busby Berkeley personally? I mean, he invented the overhead shot. Come on.
Oh, my God. Well, I'm talking to you, Ed, so you're the only one.
So Ed, with these stories, do you keep like a journal, a diary? Like, how do you sit down and go back and think about all these?
I've been keeping a journal every day for I don't even know how many years. I mean, for 30 years, I've journaled every single day, virtually without fail. But earlier in life, when something really remarkable would happen, I would write it down. But more than writing it down, if something fantastic happens to me and you're my friend, I am going to tell you this story. Yeah. So all the stories in my book were so vivid to me because I told the stories to all of my friends at one point or another.
That's incredible. I mean, really, storytelling at its finest.
You're always honing it.
Well, yeah. I mean, but I love that it all. Hey, we could be in his next story. This could be a moment, Ed. This could be a scene.
This could be a moment. The way it was with the Georgie play, George Rose was such a character that if he would say, he had such a peculiar way of turning a phrase, he would say something to me and I would find it riveting. So the next thing I know, I'd be repeating it in his accent 10,000 times, telling people about it. So when I wanted to recreate the whole thing, it was all available to me.
Were you like starstruck? Like when you first met these actors that you've heard about or you've admired, and then you're in a room with them face to face, how did you go in? Were you nervous? Did you like give yourself a little TED talk and then get yourself in the tour?
When I worked with with Leonard Bernstein, I was like 22. I mean, you can't prepare yourself.
Right.
He was the most famous man in America.
Yeah.
He was the conductor of the New York Philharmonic. He had his own TV show. He'd had a huge scandal with the Black Panthers, so the FBI was following him everywhere. And I'm just, rehearsing in a rehearsal room with him, just him and me. I mean, you can't prepare yourself for that.
But but then I feel like it's like ripping off the Band-Aid. It's like Leonard Bernstein, and then you start to meet more
when
people.
you're young, you're like, oh, this must be my life now.
Right.
No matter what, we opened the Kennedy Center. We opened it, and you're like, oh, this is my life now. I'll be doing things like opening the Kennedy Center. Well, that's once. You do that once.
So do you say, or do you think that, it's not that it's easy to get one job. It's never easy to get one job, but isn't it more like to keep up the momentum? Like you get one Broadway show.
Well, I started in 1968. Can you do the math on that?
No, because
I've burned out, flamed out, washed out, cracked up. I've done everything you could do. But, you're on the floor, you're face down. Oh, is that vomit? And then you just, you get up and you start walking again. And, I've gone on to the next thing. Oh.
That's amazing.
About being starstruck, I mean, if you're working with somebody like Anne Margaret, I toured with her for a year and a half, and never once was it ever not, that's Anne Margaret. And I have a bunch of phone messages from her on my phone that I'll never erase. They'll be there when I drop dead.
You should keep all that
You should.
stuff.
So who's your favorite to talk about? Yeah.
Gotcha question.
Yeah.
Who's my favorite?
Of your show. So the show stories. Which one do you just love?
Well, 50 years ago, one of the biggest va-va-va-voom girls in the history of Broadway. She was the original Hedy LaRue in How to Succeed and the original Belle Poitrine in Little Me. We happened to be on a tour bus at the same time. We weren't even on the same tour. And she stuck her head over the top of the seat in front of me on the tour bus and told me the dirtiest joke I had ever heard, Virginia Martin.
Tell us.
And that was 50 years ago. And that's one of my favorite things that ever happened to me. I was a kid, and this big Broadway star with too much eyeliner told me the dirty joke.
Ed, you can't leave me hanging.
Ed, what's
I
the
got
dirty
FOMO.
joke?
What's the dirty joke?
I'm open my show with it. I ain't telling you.
Oh,
All right,
smart
that's
man,
fair,
smart
that's
man.
Fair. You got to go see the show. Do you think that social media, how do you feel about, we were talking about the annoying girls texting, because trust me, that's so annoying during a show. But aside from that, do you find Facebook or Twitter, whatever, I know you're on Facebook, I don't know if you're on Instagram or anything else. Do you feel like that's helped you a little bit?
It's how I sold my book.
Yeah.
And that thing you told me about people taking their photo with my book, I didn't do that. Two guys that I barely knew in two different parts of the country, one in the South and one in the Southwest, on the same day posted photos of themselves holding up my book. And the next thing I knew, people were doing it in front of the Eiffel Tower, in front of the Great Wall of China.
Amazing.
I remember.
At Disney World, and trying to find more fun places to take the photo. And I have hundreds of photos like that. And somebody said to me, how did you come up with that? I'm like, well, I didn't. It just happened.
No, it's
so
cool. It went viral.
That's how I've gotten an orchestrator off of, we became friends on Facebook. I've booked shows. I've booked jobs as an actor off of something on Facebook. I have a big editing process. If you say anything that I don't like, you get hidden. And if you seek me out to say something I don't like, you'll be blocked. But when I was selling my book, I just took everybody that would friend me because I was selling books, Then we had the election, and I had to do a bunch of winnowing out.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you know what you could do? Like what I do, too, is I just unfollow people.
Sometimes that's not enough. Usually it is,
Just because I feel like it's funny because I follow this, she's like a life coach guru, and she says, be careful who you follow on social media. It's not even about, it's about anything. So I really tailor my Facebook or my Instagram to who's going to inspire me, make me feel good.
If people bring me down,
Yeah.
you know, I don't want to be brought. Life is hard enough.
Right.
Don't bring me. Don't post wounded dogs.
No,
you know,
I
please.
know. It's like I like to post funny, little sarcastic stuff. You post funny stuff too.
Yeah, just to make someone smile.
Yeah, just give someone a smile. They might be scrolling through Facebook and having like a really bad day, and then they'll come across something, make them laugh.
I think we have a responsibility to each other. I like to think of it as a cocktail party. We're all at a cocktail party. Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy at the cocktail party.
That's a great point.
No, and I definitely have some of those people. Like if I post something, they have to like be like, "Well," I'm like, "Really?"
Oh yeah.
I didn't ask for your opinion.
I know. I'm like, and I'll say, I just went through my thing and I didn't ask for an opinion, but thank you anyway, Buzzkill. So give us the dates of both your things that you're doing, so we can get
Who
them out
Done
there.
It
Who
is
Done It?
November 20th, which is a Wednesday. Oh, wait a minute. I said it was 2 weeks from today. It's 2 weeks from yesterday. Oops.
Yes.
So November 20th at 7 p.m. at Green Room 42. That's Who Done It, the musical. And December 12th, which is a Thursday, at Green Room 42 at 7 p.m., I am launching the world premiere of Show Stories.
Oh, my gosh.
50 years of show business stories crammed into one act.
I have never been to Green Room 42.
We should go.
Oh, it's such a great room.
I would
Wait till you see it.
love to go. Yeah, I definitely want to try and come. I mean, I want to try and come to both. I don't know if I could do both or swing one. I would love to hear this Who Done It, too.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, so you've played an array of characters. I mean, your catalog of characters that you got to give a voice to is huge. Is there any role that you're like still dying to play? I don't care if you're too old for it. It doesn't matter. Or too young for it. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Is there any role? Like, I still want to be the Artful Dodger.
You know what? There really isn't. I've been so lucky, and I've gotten to play. I mean, do we still have time for a story?
Yes.
Oh my God, absolutely.
Ed, please.
I was doing the Three Musketeers on Broadway, and I was playing Cardinal Richelieu, who's a really bad guy with great costumes. And we had the fight director from the Royal Shakespeare Company, and he said, "You know, dear, you should play Shylock." And at that time, I didn't have any straight plays on my resume, and I thought, there's nobody on earth who is going to cast me as Shylock. So I took the play, Merchant of Venice, and I turned it into an opera, and I got the York Theater to produce it and starred myself in it. And that's how I got to play Shylock, and that was very satisfying.
Oh my gosh.
And then I got nominated for a Drama Desk Award, so that was very, very, very satisfying.
Ed,
You're a very, very smart businessman.
and you're also inspiring me to do more than I'm doing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So where did you learn to write though? Like, do you just like is it just like comes out of you and you just put it on paper?
It is. When I was in high school, I wrote 3 musicals, book, music, and lyrics in Norman, Oklahoma.
Oh my gosh.
Where the hell does that come from, you know?
Really?
But I got to tell you, the secret to how I really got started in New York, it was the early 70s. I was doing a reading with Jerry Lanning, you know, who was one of the stars of the original MAME and a bunch of other shows. And this show was so terrible, this reading, it was called The Memphis Store-Bought Teeth. I'll never forget it. It was so terrible that I thought, not only can I do better than this, anybody can do better than this. And I started writing then and there.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I know, because like, you know, I'm always like, do you have to take a writing class? Like, is it I guess it's like acting. You don't have to go to I'm not saying don't go to school,
Right.
people, don't yell at me. But like, if you're an actor, yes, you can go to school, you can hone your craft, you could, but if you got it, you got it. So you obviously have this writing.
It's not about having it. I mean, if you start writing, your play will probably be crap, and probably the next play will be crap, but you just got to do it, and you've got to keep doing it, and people will tell you why it's crap. Believe me. But very early on, I think it was 1977, I was doing Jacques Brel with a woman who had done it 12 times. Yeah. And she said to me, why are we doing this show that I've done 12 times and everybody, why aren't we doing our own show? So I wrote a show for the two of us, and I ended up getting that produced in New York. It's called Identity and Other Crises in 1977. And I was like, oh, you mean if I do something, people are going to like take it seriously? Really? And it wasn't any good, but if you come up with property, if you've got a property, maybe someone will do it.
Yeah,
That's
true.
incredible.
You know?
So Ed, you mentioned how you've shared all these stories. You have this show, show stories. So who will play Ed Dixon in your autobiography, movie, or maybe their one-man show about you?
Your Rocket Man movie.
Brad Pitt.
Exactly. That's
Aim high.
Yes.
Oh, shoot the moon, Ed. Shoot the moon. That's a great question, Danny. Yeah, who would you want to play you? That's so fascinating.
I've never thought of it, and I'm not done yet, so I'm really not thinking of it.
Right.
Yeah.
You're just beginning. You really are.
So one of our Facebook followers just mentioned that you worked with Perry Arthur Kroger. He did costumes for Three Musketeers.
The Three Musketeers was in 1984
That could have been Perry.
or something.
Mm-hmm.
You think I'm going to remember the
No.
names of people?
I know.
I know. They were like telling you basically that you and that.
Oh, they're telling me.
They're telling you.
Tell me again.
Yes, they're telling you.
You worked with. Please, I have students that they look at me and I'm like, do I know you? They're like, you were our teacher, and I'm like, guys, I have
I know.
thousands of students.
Or even knowing their name.
You know
go,
the
"Hey,
worst
you."
thing you can ever say to an older person? You don't remember me, do you?
Oh,
You wouldn't believe how many times somebody that was in the chorus of something or played a small part will say something like that to me. I'm like, what am I supposed to say?
what do you say to that?
I
Right.
know. And you just say, no, I don't. I'm so sorry. So Ed, you are so busy. You teach, right?
I love teaching. I absolutely adore teaching. I've been teaching since 1971. Wow. One of the chorus boys in No No Nanette came to me and said, I really can't sing. Do you think you could help me? And I thought, well, I don't think I can hurt you. Right. He really couldn't sing. And he got better, and Helen Gallagher started sending me damaged people. So I was 22 and I had a whole studio full of people with vocal damage. That's how it all got started.
So you do voice. Do you do like
I do voice,
you do voice, okay.
And I coach people's auditions.
Well, you know what? And we always talk about that. We're teaching artists too, and we always talk about audition etiquette.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Sometimes we do these panel auditions where people come in. And, it's like kind
of like a cattle call.
And the people, what they're wearing, their content, everything. I'm like, we need to coach these people. I'm like, because when you're sitting there all day and you have hundreds of people coming in. You don't come in wearing like sweatpants with like words across your butt and like a bun in your hair, So do you coach stuff like that? Like the whole, like besides monologues, the whole thing?
I try to, a lot of people, I'm just trying to get their voices caught up.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of those people. But once we start coaching up auditions, we go into everything.
Yeah, it's because it's once I feel like once you master, and I don't know if you ever really master an audition, but once you can really.
Well, you can't because the business keeps changing.
Exactly.
The business is a completely different business right this minute than it was even 5 years ago. So, yeah.
How do you feel about self-tapes? Honestly, because I'm horrible at them.
Well,
right now.
there's no getting around it.
Yeah.
It's just, there's no getting around any of it. It's like, 50 years ago, somebody said to me, why do we have to have agents? Well, because that's the way it is. That's why.
Exactly.
That's the truth.
We didn't invent show business. We just joined it.
But we're lucky that we get to do it, even on all levels. When people in we work in the professional New Jersey scene, and not that people are complaining, but even when I hear like a little bit of a complaint, and yes, things are going to annoy us, but I always look at them and say, but guys, we get to do this.
Yeah.
Every day.
And there's no point in pretending that it's not impossibly difficult, because it is.
It's hard.
And there's no point in lying about it. And sometimes it's awful. If you're successful enough that you end up doing a show like 300 or 400 times, that never happens to most people. But if you're one of the people who gets to do a show 300 or 400 times, it becomes really, really hard.
Yeah.
And nobody's prepared for that.
Right.
until it happens, and then you have to learn how to do that.
And I think it goes back to the emotional toll, the physical toll. I think it's
physical, yes.
The physical toll. Do you have a question?
I mean, you get to be my age and doing 8 shows. I just did a My Fair Lady that was 3 hours long.
Oh my
and
gosh.
it sold really well, so they booked an extra performance every week. Okay. So we were doing 9 shows every week. And it was a commute to the housing. I mean, that was very, very hard.
Yes. It is, and it's like, so, just like anyone else. There's some days when you're like, I don't want to go to work
right.
today. I don't want to go to work today. I want to stay in bed. And then
or you go to work and you're just not in the mood. Well, guess what? When you're a performer,
no.
you can't.
I mean, if you want to do it every single day, then you must not have done it in a while.
Yeah. No, it's true. And then how about memorizing lines?
I mean, you do it every day because it's your job.
It's the truth, and you're committed to it. And people are paying to see you, and those people deserve the
and
same
you owe
show.
it to the people you're working with, also.
Absolutely.
And that's the whole trust. Your coworkers need to trust you. The audience who's paying, the audience from yesterday wants to see the same. From today wants to see the same show that those people saw yesterday. So it's like the consistency too. People don't realize that you have to be you can't be changing your performance every day. Because then the people want,
Some people do.
Yeah, that's true.
What do you do? I've never really had that. And I'm definitely like a performer. Where I'm like very like, I do it. You explore a little bit. But have you ever been on stage with someone that you were like, oh my God, what's going to come out of this person's mouth? Or what's this person going to do? Have you ever been in that experience?
Kevin Spacey, he never did the same thing twice.
Really?
If he said a line to me on Monday, he might be on the other side of the stage on Tuesday talking to somebody else.
But isn't like, to me, that's like making it about himself and not about the whole product. I mean,
well, that's not for me to say.
I guess it could make it a little exciting,
But I'm thinking about then you're like totally thrown off for that second. I mean, a millisecond in theater could be 5 minutes.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
If someone, that's so funny. So my friend just is like, what a great interview. Do you have any? Tell us another story. I love stories, Ed. I know. We want to go see show stories, but if you could share another story. These are fascinating. They are because I love that you like are throwing these names out there. They're these are like albums that I've listened to growing up, like on vinyl, like all these names that you are mentioning. You just posted an Ann Miller clip.
Oh my gosh, that's so and it turns out every single person backing her up is a famous Broadway person today.
Isn't that so funny?
Yeah, just unbelievable. But her commitment to excellence. She was 64 years old in that clip. That's why I posted it, because it shows her rehearsing it, and then it showed the finished product. I thought that was fantastic.
My friend Meredith did Sugar Babies with her. Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, when I got to do the first revival of Sunday in the Park with George, very early on in the process, Sondheim invited us to his house for a party. And all these adult actors are like, we're going to see the Sondheim. and then I arrive at his door, and there's a gaggle of fully grown adult actors saying, you ring the bell. No, you ring the bell. No, you. No, you. No, you.
That's so funny.
That's great.
Do you still talk to him? Like, do you keep in touch with Stephen Sondheim? Are you guys
I tell a really interesting story in the act about I've worked with him several times, and so I exchanged several emails with him. Yeah. So I was thinking that that we were like pals,
Right.
So I saw something that I thought was really funny, and I sent it to him, and he writes back, thanks, Ed. I only received this 1,000 times.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, my God, I either fix this or I can never write to him again. So I wrote back, 1,000 times? Does that mean I win a free computer?
That's amazing.
And he wrote back, okay, it was only 12.
That's
great.
You guys are BFF now. You're BFF now.
So
Never take famous people for granted.
Exactly.
So Ed, you're so busy. You have 2 shows coming up. What do you do just to kind of decompress, or self-care? We talk a lot about self-care on here. So what do you do just to kind of relax?
I do a lot of deep breathing. You know what an oxysizer is?
No, but tell me.
An oxysizer is a device. It's about the size of a It's about the size of a pillow, and I put it on a yoga mat, and it has 2 stirrups in it for your ankles, and you lie in it, and you put your ankles in it, and it shakes you really hard for 15 minutes, and it forces you to stay, lying there for 15 minutes. So it's a really great meditation aid, and because it shakes you really hard, it releases your spine and does all sorts of wonderful things to your body, and I do that to decompress like every day without fail.
That's amazing.
I want to look this up. What's it called? An oxysizer? That's it.
Look up an oxysizer.
Oxysizer.
Because I do like.
Oh, they also call it a chi machine.
A chi.
Oh, okay.
Because I do, I have to do that too. I take 30 minutes. I'm a mom. I have kids. But after I pick them up from school, they're home. I'm like, leave me alone for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And I will light my candles. I say my mantras. I'm one of those people. And I kind of like get connected with myself because otherwise I'm all over the place.
Right.
And I think as artists, I don't know about you, Ed, but my brain works like a million miles a minute.
Oh my God. I do a lot of mantra work. A lot. And sometimes when I'm walking someplace, I'm saying the mantra in the street with every single step I take. That's a very good way of dealing with New York, I find.
Well, clearly all your mantras are working because you're
Absolutely.
kicking ass at life. I mean, seriously, you're doing amazing things. And you know what? You're so fun. Like I said, I mean, I only know you from Facebook, but your feed is so fun. Your feed is, you do funny stuff, poignant stuff, relevant stuff that you post. And you're doing it. You're doing what you always said you're going to do. And those are the people that I love to surround myself with and talk to. I love the stories. I love hearing all these things that you did and that you're still going to continue to do because, like you said, you're not done yet. So where can they find you, Ed, online? Like, give all your socials or your website.
I'm on Twitter. I'm not on Twitter a lot, but if you just enter my name, it'll pop right up. And I'm on Facebook, always, like always. And I have a website, eddixon.biz.
Great.
That's got lots and lots of pictures from like everything from 1970 to today.
And could they get?
And I try to keep up with the most recent posts about what I'm about to do or what I just did. Although websites, to my mind, are a little bit passé at this point since everybody's living on Twitter and Facebook. But I catch it up pretty regularly, and that's always a way to get in touch with me.
Oh,
and what about your book? Is there information on your website about your book? Where can they get your book?
The book is on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. It's called Secrets of a Life on Stage and Off.
That's
I love
great.
that. It's so funny. Like when you release this book, were people messaging you like, "Oh my God, am I in your book?" Like it's like I'm in Ed Dixon's tell-all book about show business. No, but
somebody got in touch with me to tell me I left the hyphen out of their name.
Oh no! After all of
I have a
that.
hyphen.
Oh God. Ed,
Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh,
this is great.
Ed, this is so much fun. You know what? Thank you so much for indulging us. I've been looking forward to this for so long. And
Me too. Thank you so much, Lauren. Thank you so much, Danny.
Yep.
And buy my book.
Yes.
I do want to buy your book, and then this is recorded, so when it's up, and you could, I'll share it with you because it's
after we finish this. Am I going to be able to post it on my Facebook?
Yeah, well, the Facebook Live, and then what I do is I'm going to send this to the guy that runs my YouTube page, and he'll get the interview up on YouTube, and then it's here.
Then you'll be able to share it. Yes,
fantastic. Then I'll make everybody on Earth watch it.
Yes, there you go.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you so much again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day,
too.
kids.
You too. Take care.
Okay.
Bye. That was so.
What a incredible career, and it's still going.
God.
I mean,
honestly, but that gives me hope.
It really does.
Honestly, I'm just beginning. I'm shedding layers. I love that he does mantra work because that's literally my thing.
So what do we have to look up?
Oxysizer,
or a chi machine. Chi's easier to look up.
And wow. I mean, that just because I've been like kind of holding back on writing. I have an idea.
All right. So when we
something.
asked him about the stories and how he says he journals every day, do you journal?
I write stuff down every day.
I don't.
I journal. I don't. You know what? But So I have a notebook that I keep next to my bed. It was a notebook that I bought for my mom, and my mom's passed away, so I've acquired all her stuff. I'm a lister right now, so I list everything that I have to do.
Oh, I do that. Okay, I'm a lister.
As far as journaling, I have a voice recorder on my phone that when something happens to me that day that I think I'm going to want to remember, I voice record it.
Yeah.
But I got to start writing. And I actually just reached out to was
that.
Adam Sinkowitz. Remember we interviewed him?
Uh-huh.
And I asked him he was very sweet. He gave me some advice because I'm developing a web series. It's developing here.
Right.
And
now you got to put it on paper.
For some reason, I am not trusting myself to get it down on paper.
I've never been one to write things down. I mean, I'm a lister like you. Like I list what I need to do, but journaling, and it's so funny because like whenever in school we would have to journal, I was always like,
I know.
You're always like, oh, I would always be the one that's like, I'm like, can I doodle? Can I do visual? You know, and I mean that's journaling too, but it just makes you think. Like literally listening to Ed, I was like,
I regret not journaling.
Right, I was almost like, well, what if I want to write a book? Am I going to remember everything?
Because that's what I was going to say. Because he's had this 50-year career. And
but I like how he said a lot of these stories are stories that he just keeps telling. Right. So, so I'm just like, okay, well, I guess there's hope.
I want to go to see that. I kind of want to. I want to see the whodunit, but I really want to.
The show scores sounds great.
I love showbiz stories because I am fascinated by showbiz people. We are showbiz people, but when you're a showbiz person,
but I think
you're at this
you
next level,
appreciate it a little bit more because you know how hard it is to get where that person is or was, and it's just It's kind of like it's like talking about the experience of theater and how people are on their phone. Like I would never on my phone. I would never think I am horrified too. What is wrong with the youth of today?
Turn off your phone.
Listen, stop it with your chips what's it called?
Chips and crackers.
Chips and crackers.
Stop with
Forget about your chips and crackers. Put down your damn phone and get some culture.
But don't you think that shows our age a little bit? Like trust me, I'm on my phone. I love my phone for certain things.
I love my phone. I'm on my phone all the time.
I could go to the theater.
My phone tells me that I'm on my phone too much than I am. But you know what?
But I can go to the theater
and put it away.
And I can actually turn it off.
Yeah.
And put it in my bag.
I turn it off because I'm terrified that it's going to make a noise.
Oh my God. I check my phone like 5 times. I'm like.
Right? And it's like, and I think as theater makers, we're just like mortified. Like we are not going to be that person.
You know what else I love too? I love how he brought up the psyche of playing a character.
Because everyone thinks like acting is fluff and it's not physical or mental. And guess what? It's both.
Saying words out loud. But
you're just saying words out loud.
You can tell when someone's just saying words out loud. As opposed to when
and you think about like you mentioned Heath Ledger, but I also thought of like Robin Williams.
Oh my God, Robin Williams!
You know,
like
these people that were struggling, but they were so immersed in what they were doing, and it makes you wonder if because they were so immersed, if that affected them.
Right? Is that part of like what happened? It's so interesting. You know, we're so lucky on this show that we get to talk to these people really and just, amazing, and they're just people like
they're just people. They're just like us.
And Ed is literally one of my favorites. I mean, he literally is the first one that shows up on my Facebook feed every morning. He's like always the top.
Well, and it's so funny because we were talking about social media and how the negativity of it, and it's like because we are on social media and we're looking at it, you don't want that negativity in your feed because that's
I don't want to see it.
Do you want to wake up in the morning and then you like look at your phone and you're immediately like annoyed?
No, I do mantras the first thing in the morning when I wake up. I stretch. I have a couple mantras that I say to myself. I get into the zone. I shower and do my makeup. I mean, actually, there's sometimes I don't do my makeup, but I'll do like whatever. But like, I make sure I get dressed. I take care of myself every day. That's part of my habit. I do some form of exercising. I haven't really been able to go to the gym, but
I make out with my dog.
You take your dog for what?
It's I make out with my dog.
Your dog loves yell.
No, he comes over and gives me kissies
gives you
and
kissies.
stuff.
It's like you have your creative habit.
Yeah.
I guess,
oh my God, all of a sudden I'm so like congested.
It's the weather.
It is the weather.
So,
it is the weather. Sorry, Kevin. He's like, you're away from my.
This was like a real fun.
This was great. So at 2:00.
So I can't really announce right now, but I'm gonna most likely be in the studio. I don't think Danny's able to join me. You can't
on
join
Sunday
me at 10, right? You can't.
Maybe. We'll talk.
We're gonna talk up there. I just had something fall on my lap. I'm a little bit excited about it, but I don't get excited about stuff until it's wrapped.
Could we do lunch after?
Yeah, we could do something. We can go grab food.
Okay.
So
go to the diner.
So I know this is obnoxious that we're not telling you, but soon enough you'll know. But next Thursday, Donna Vivino.
Yeah.
Is going to be calling in. Donna was the original Cosette, little Cosette on the Broadway, Elphaba. in
Jersey
Wicked,
Girl.
Jersey Girl, and she's now doing Next to Normal, I think in Pennsylvania.
Which, have you ever seen that show?
No, but I've heard
I saw it on Broadway
and it's so
with
demanding.
Alice Ripley.
I would love to see it.
It's very demanding.
So she's going to be
talking about this whole psyche and everything.
Yes.
I mean, that part
that's
is
all about
just,
mental illness, right?
Yeah.
So that's next week. I have a surprise on the 21st. I know you're not here, but of course we'll get to be doing that. Also, Danny and I are looking to up our reach, so we're looking at either getting on Buzzsprout or SoundCloud. I'm not sure which one yet because we want to move to Spotify and Apple Music and all that fun stuff. So
new logo coming soon too. So you know,
I gotta
stay tuned.
Stay tuned for some good stuff. And I think we are going to peace out for the day. Oh, that was like...
Wait. We should do...
Wait.
Someone do... Oh,
I hope they screen grab this. Anyway, we just held that for a really long time.
Screen grab moment.
Screen grab. Thank
Nicole,
you,
where are you?
I know. Nicole, our super fan. Anyway, guys. Oh, did we talk about my birthday? We did.
We did.
You know, I'm not one to say. I'm not like one to be like, tomorrow's my birthday. Today's my birthday.
You're not.
I'm not. I'm really. But here's the weird thing, really quick. I can't see my messages. I guess because I didn't get them as they came in because I wasn't really online. Now I can't scroll and see
because they've changed it and they make it hard for you to go. They make it hard for you to go on your timeline and see your messages, and it's not in. I think you have to hit a setting maybe, but it's not in chronological. It's
it's weird.
It's what's
so
popular.
I'm not ignoring you guys. I just can't see those messages, and it's
it's a lot. It's a lot to also respond to.
I mean, it's like
I try to do it live.
It's like 400.
Like on my birthday, I literally tried.
I missed it. See, what happened was because I missed a bunch of them. Because I wasn't really.
I had
online.
a feeling because I messaged you, and then I posted, and I was like, I haven't heard from her yet, and I was like, she's so quick to get back to me.
I normally am, but I had the MRI, and then I'm like, tag me in that picture. I want to have it in my collection. I love that picture of us.
Because first I sent her a personal message, and then I was like, I'm like sitting in the car, and I was like, let me post now.
Because it was a busy day.
Well, not only that, but it's like before you go drive, and then you're at work and everything. I was like, let me just do that now. And
should I talk about my panic attack that I had at the MRI place?
Go ahead.
I literally did. All right, so I had to have an MRI.
Did you have a full?
It was just for my neck, but
like, did they put you in? Like,
yes, they put you in.
I've never had one, so.
And the guy was so sweet, the technician, because I was like, I'm not afraid of anything. I'm gonna go in this, and I was like, whoa, get me out, because the thing is really close to your nose.
Yeah.
And I would look, he would like, and it like raises you up, and then it pulls you in. And also I look up, and I could just see something. I was like, get me out. And he's like, do you want to get a prescription for a Valium and then come back? And I was like, no, not doing that.
That's not what they do?
Yeah, they said you can get a Valium and have someone drive you.
How long is the MRI?
He said because I was having claustrophobia issues, mine was about 12 minutes, but sometimes it could be like 20 minutes to 30 minutes. But each picture, so then he'd be like, okay, so he gave me an eye mask. I said, give me the eye mask. And the eye mask helped because I wasn't relying on myself.
You're not opening your eyes and seeing that.
Seeing that. And if I did open my eyes,
they don't like give music or anything?
Well, I did, but the thing is, it's really loud. It's like, bah, bah, bah. So like
the music or the machine?
The machine. So it's literally like you're in a tin can and someone's banging on it. So the first two, he's like, this one's going to be, and you can't move. He's like, this one's a minute. He's like, this one's a minute and a half. This one is 3 minutes. This one is 3.5 minutes. And the one, I started to feel myself panicking again, the longer one. And I was like, girl, talk yourself out of it. You got this. And I did it. And he was like, you did great. And I was like, thank you. But I was literally like.
Did he give you a lollipop or something?
No, but they should.
Right?
They should. So, yeah, I had that. So that was like how I started my birthday. Then I went to
my God. I can't believe you
coffee.
did that on your birthday, first off.
I just want to, I know, because I just wanted to get it done because I'm still having these arm issues. So then I did that, boot and coffee. And then, my tattoo we talked about. I love my tattoo.
It was like a nice, like, kind of like low key, but nice.
It's like a 44.
But that's
like
you,
whatever.
though.
I know. I'm like, I don't need like a big thing. And then I was like, I just want to go to the diner. I said, I just want a burger and matzo ball soup. And that's what we did.
That's like,
We went to Lila's friends. It was like, whatever.
My friends are like, what are you doing on your birthday this year? Because I like plan it out. And I do like, I say it's Danny's birthday extravaganza. And I usually do like 2 days of something. And it's like, it's getting hard to think of what to do. Because I've done like pretty sweet things.
Well, Friday night, me and my girlfriends went out. We like to go to laundromat. I was actually going to call you. I want to come out, but we went out later.
You did tell me you were going, though.
Yeah.
You told me that.
I like it. It's a 23 and up club.
So like
whatever.
a speakeasy
it's
kind
like a speakeasy feel. And I just want to dance. They played like music from the 90s. I love it. And then, but I didn't get home till 4 in the morning because we went to the diner and I had real coffee.
Yes, diner.
So we just sat at the diner, ate eggs, and we were just chatting. Then the next day, I went out for my cousin's birthday. So, I mean, I kind of celebrate the whole month, but it's like low key. It's like I don't make a big deal about it. But I don't know. I do love my birthday, though. I just don't talk about it. I don't know. I'm not like, it's my birthday.
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean? Some people, but I don't judge people
because you're
like
humble
that.
with like that.
Well,
but I mean, like, I don't know.
No, I mean, listen, there are some people that are like, it's
I talk about it's my birthday. I don't think it has. I think, you know what? Do
it's who
what
you
you
are.
do. It is
I feel
your
like
day.
It's like a Scorpio thing. I think we're like a little like secretive.
It's
So
your
you know what I
day.
mean?
You could
Yeah.
feel and do what you feel.
If you want to go out and like be like, it's my birthday and this one doing, then like, you know what, be you.
My whole thing is like you have one day a year
It's
that's
one day
yours.
that's for you.
And it's like, live it up. Life is short.
And you know what? If we lived in England, I'd have fireworks because it's also Guy Fawkes Day.
Guy what?
Guy Fawkes.
Excuse me?
He tried to blow up the not the Twin Towers. God, my God, forgive me. The Tower of London.
Oh.
Guy Fawkes. That's also from.
I was like, excuse what?
No,
Is that
yeah, from like a long time ago. I can't remember the year. Guy Fawkes. Someone help me.
Guy Fawkes.
And,
It sounds like you're saying a bad word. Fawkes.
Guy Fawkes.
Guy Fawkes.
and
Guy
then,
Fawkes on the floor. And oh my God, Guy Fawkes.
Guy No, it's November 5th, but it's also
November 5th is Guy
V
Fawkes
for
Day.
Vendetta.
Oh, okay.
Actually, my friend sent
Natalie
me,
Portman.
Yeah, my friend sent me a picture of the guy. What's his
Is that his name, Guy Fawkes?
No, but it's Guy Fawkes Day. The guy with the mascot. He's like, happy birthday. My friend John is awesome. So, but I thought of that. I was like, if I lived in England, I would have fireworks.
Why do you sound like that?
I don't know. I can't talk like that.
I followed in England. I got fucked there.